Annihilation is the second film directed by Alex Garland and focuses on a comet that crashes into a lighthouse, and suddenly this weird aura of energy called the Shimmer starts forming from it, and it just starts to expand. And apparently whenever anyone tries to send people in to try to figure out what the Shimmer is, nobody comes back, except for one soldier played by Oscar Isaac, who happens to be the husband to a biologist played by Natalie Portman. So Natalie Portman's character, along with 4 other women, venture into the Shimmer to try to figure out what it is, what happened to everyone else that got sent in there, and is there a possible way to stop it and get rid of the Shimmer. Now, I saw this movie a couple nights ago, but this is one of those movies that you can't review instantly, the second you walk out of the theater. I mean, you can have a first reaction like I do on the Stardust app, but this is a movie you need some time to think about, because I knew going in that this was Alex Garland. He is the same guy that wrote and directed Ex Machina, which I think is one of the most brilliant science fiction movies in a while. It's so clever, it's such an intellectual science fiction film, and it was one of my top 10 favorite movies of the year it came out. So Ex Machina was his directorial debut. He was mainly known as a writer for films like 28 Days Later and Dread, which is one of the most underrated comic book movies out there. So I was super excited to see Annihilation, but there was part of me that was wondering how this is going to play out for mainstream audiences, because it's being distributed by Paramount, and I know there's a lot of controversy around them, like, not releasing the movie in theaters worldwide. Like, it's gonna be on Netflix in about a week in other parts of the world, which is sad. Because I'll tell you right now, the main reason why I did not review this movie the second I got out of the theater was because this is a intellectual science fiction film. It is very much a thinking man's movie, and while it's not on the same level as Ex Machina, it's still a pretty good movie. I'm actually so glad that I waited to do this review, because when I walked out of the theater, I was thinking, okay, it's good. I had a lot of issues with it, but I enjoyed it overall. But the more I sat on it, the more I ended up falling in love with it. I don't love it as much as Ex Machina, and even then, love is a strong word, because there's a lot in this movie that actually doesn't work. But in terms of a science fiction film with sort of a small budget, it's damn impressive. It has an amazing visual look that makes the movie feel like it cost more than it actually did. The inside of the Shimmer is gorgeous. You have this very unsettling feeling, like, wow, this is beautiful, but something's not right. This just does not feel like a place I want to be. Which is funny, considering that the outside world looks very dark and gloomy, and then the place that's actually dangerous to be in is bright and colorful and vibrant. It really does a good job at throwing you off, and this is a movie that really is kind of depressing to watch. Not in a bad way, though. Not like, oh god, let it end. But you're supposed to get an unsettling feeling by going through it. They establish in the movie that the Shimmer has been known to disorient things. It's allowed crossbreeding, and the closer you get to the center of it all, the more chaotic things get. And our main characters really find themselves in a very nerve-wracking position. Because even though you see these characters with guns going into the Shimmer, and even though Natalie Portman's character was in the army at one point, they're still scientists. So because they're not soldiers, they feel a little more vulnerable. That vulnerability kind of transcends into the audience, where you feel very nervous as well. And there's a lot of horrific moments throughout this movie, some of which is downright body horror. And for everyone who claimed that Cloverfield Paradox had a creepy level of body horror, that was nothing. This has some moments that will make your jaw drop and you just go, holy fuck! So again, you really get this unsettling feeling along with the characters, and most of the actresses in this movie are damn good. You got Natalie Portman, who is always good, well, post-prequel era, but she's the main character that you follow, and she has her reasons for going into the Shimmer, because as I mentioned, Oscar Isaac is her husband, so she wants to know what's actually going on in there. In fact, a lot of these characters do have legit reasons personally for going into the Shimmer. And you also have Tessa Thompson, who plays a very timid, nerdy scientist. And then you have Gina Rodriguez, who kind of surprised me because Gina Rodriguez is most famous for Jane the Virgin. And to see her kind of be like Vasquez from Aliens is a neat change for her. And she can be downright terrifying at points. So there are a few scenes with her in this movie where you're actually a little more scared of her than you are with whatever the Shimmer has to offer. And yeah, the cast for the majority of the part is pretty good. And then Oscar Isaac is really good as well, but he is not in the movie as much as the main actresses are, but he still does a really good job with the little bit of material that he's given. The score also really lends itself to the dark and unsettling nature that this film has. It's done by Ben Salisbury and Jeff Barrow, the same duo that did the score for Garland's Ex Machina, and it's a really great score. One thing that I also really love, I love it when music that you hear in the trailer is actually part of the movie, because whenever you watch the trailers for Annihilation, you hear this, that's part of the score within this film. Just like when you saw the trailers for Shin Godzilla, and the music that plays in the trailer is actually part of the film's score. And I know filmmakers don't really have a lot of control when it comes to making trailers, but whoever is responsible for saying, this score is great, let's make it part of the trailer, thank you, because this is a fantastic score. I had some issues though. Unlike Ex Machina, where I think that's nearly a flawless movie, there were a few things in this one where I could point to and say, yeah, that didn't really work out. There are a few plot elements that's used to develop Natalie Portman's character that really go nowhere once they're set up. And it could have just been taken care of through a line of dialogue, because there are a lot of other moments where they showcase this subplot, and it ultimately doesn't lead anywhere. So you just sit there wondering, what was the point of all that? And then another issue that I had with the movie, and I might be on the minority with this, but it's Jennifer Jason Leigh. I didn't think she was good at all. If there was one single performance in this movie that I could pinpoint and say, that was god-awful, it would be hers. And I get what her character is supposed to be like. She's supposed to be very cold and commanding, but this performance is at a point where she's just so monotone throughout the entire movie, and every time she speaks, I'm taken out of it. It just really distracts me how bad she is in this movie. And everyone else is just acting circles around her. And even though Tessa Thompson does sound bored at few points in the movie, it is kind of established that that is her character, where she's kind of the shy, nerdy scientist type. Whereas with Jennifer Jason Leigh, she seems like she couldn't give a fuck less about this role. So to bring things back around, if I had reviewed this movie right after I saw it from the theater, I probably would have said, good but not great, or maybe even watch at your own risk. And one of the reasons why I would have given it that low of a grade was because I didn't quite get the ending. But again, I'm glad that I waited to do this review, because I had to pull back and say, no, this is more of an intellectual science fiction movie. It's done by the same guy who made Ex Machina, one of your favorite movies of 2015, so you know this is gonna be another intellectual science fiction film. And yeah, I've learned to appreciate it a lot more as the days have gone by. Again, I don't think it's as good as Ex Machina, but it does deliver on all the things you want to see in these kind of highbrow science fiction films. It's got the great look to it, it's got a very bleak atmosphere, it's got some really good performances, and with the ending itself, it's one of these things where you kind of have to interpret it for yourself and just come to your own conclusion on what exactly happened. It's one of these things that if you're a movie nerd, you're probably going to debate back and forth with people who have seen it on what the hell was that ending. So I'm going to say Annihilation is worth seeing in your lifetime. This is a movie that I really want to revisit again because it's so well done, and there are a lot of moments in this movie that legitimately scared me. Like, this was better than any horror movie that has come out this year so far, and it's not even played to be a horror movie. If you really dug Ex Machina and you love science fiction films that are a little more intellectual, then this will do the job for you. And that's my review for Annihilation. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below and tell me what your thoughts are on the movie, if and when you've seen it. And as always, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.